I'm Justin Brogan here at Five Loaves Two Fish Farm, and I wanted to do a little video about compost. This is the compost that I learned through my permaculture teacher, who was Jeff Dons, who was an apprentice of Jeff Lawton. So I have been gathering supplies around the property. This is some dry leaves that I found in some areas. It got a little wet, but that's a good thing. And over here is a bunch of green material. This I got from mowing the area and just stacked it here. It's already kind of in a decomposed state, but that's perfectly fine too. It's kind of getting going quite a bit. And here's another pile of some leaves that I gathered and I just have piled here. And in the back of my truck, which is the reason why I'm able to do this now, I just picked up a bunch of horse manure from a local farm who's giving it away for free. The manure tends to attract flies, and they usually have to buy these little wasp larvae that will turn into wasps, and that'll help keep they lay their eggs in the maggots, and that tends to be what they use to keep the fly population down. So usually you can find horse farmers that are more than willing to get rid of their horse manure. So this is how I like to start my piles. So what I learned is a 3-2-1 system, and it's 3 parts dry material, which is your carbon, 2 parts the green material, which can be anything from kitchen scraps to fresh leaf cuttings, things that just haven't dried out all the way, and that's going to feed your nitrogen, which is 1 part nitrogen. So we're going to do 9 inches or so of the dry material. And I'll come over here. Do about 6-inch layer of the green material. I like to make mine pretty big, but the smallest compost you really want to make in order to get it to compost in a decent amount of time and actually activate is going to be a 3 by 3 cubed area. So when I say activate, that means it's going to start to get really hot, and that's what you want. And there's a couple different kinds of compost that you can do. This compost, I'm going to do the style where I'm gonna, once it activates and gets hot enough, I'm gonna be turning it every single day. And if you do that every single day, it will actually only take about 6 weeks to finish completely to where you can use it. This kind of compost has a lot of food that's readily available for the plants. It's all digested at that point. You want to keep turning it until the when you fill it in the morning, which you're going to want to probably stick your hand in it. You can wear gloves or a garbage bag over your hand or something. Put your hand in it and feel whether it's warm or not. Otherwise, when you're turning it, if it's very active, it'll be steaming. But if you're not seeing it steam and you just kind of feel with your hand, it should have some warmth to it. And after about 6 weeks, sometimes 5, but usually about 6 weeks, or usually at the most, if you're doing it every day, at the most it should only be about 8 weeks. It won't be warm at all. It'll be cool to the touch. And if it's cool to the touch, that means it's finished completely. You can use it on the garden. So that's what I am making now. That kind of compost is great for building soil in the beginning of a permaculture project. You want to be able to expand your food forest or your garden area as quickly as possible, and that way you can increase production and start regenerating the soil throughout more space. So best way to do that is to add fertility, and over time that rich soil, you can put different logs in there and stuff, and the mycelium will grow. Now the other kind of compost is like what we would call like the lazy man's compost. And this compost, you do the same system where you layer it 9 inches, 6 inches, 3 inches, the 3-2-1 as far as parts, 3 parts dry, 2 parts. It's just a really good ratio as far as your nitrogen levels and your all the different nutrients that you're going to need in your soil. And what you do is you stack it up, pile it up, and you leave it and let the nature do its thing. After about 18 months, your compost should be ready to go. And then the benefit to this kind of compost is that you're going to get the mycelium start to grow inside this kind of compost, and that would be really good for fruit trees. So for an established food forest, a place that has trees that are fruiting already, and you just want to continue to do your adding and fertilizing over time, I would suggest the slower, and you can make them really big and just let them sit there for about 18 months, 12 months maybe, but I would suggest 18 months. It should be finished by then. And then it'll have a lot of mycelium. When you do place that kind, I would do it very slowly. Don't mix it up too much. Try to keep the mycelium intact as much as possible. And then that way, when you place it on the ground, it'll be have a better chance of taking off really quickly. So yeah, definitely for taking soil that's around here that looks like this. It's red soil, somewhat dense, somewhat hard. So we want to inoculate this with biology and just let that as soon as we can. So I'm just gonna make, you know, just hundreds of yards of this and spread it around the property. And then once I get all the fruit trees will be getting this, along with maybe some sand, a little bit of rock, and all this will help with drainage, and rocks are kind of like little hotels for biology, I guess. So yeah, I'll plant all the trees with it, put it throughout all my annual and perennial gardens, everywhere I can. I even sprinkle it in between the beds because I like to keep areas, walkable areas between the beds that will create that I'll do some plants that I can cut and collect more biomass. So just ground cover kind of plants, clover, and maybe even stuff like arugula and kale, and you know, when I have extra seeds and I'm picking seeded plants, just go through, kind of like spread the seeds around in between the lanes, and then you'll have actually food growing, like leafy greens growing in between your garden beds. That's getting pretty close to the first layer. This should be enough horse manure to do a good amount. It's probably a couple yards, so maybe 2 to 3 yards. 1 yard does about 6 yards or so. So 3 yards will make about about 18 yards of finished compost. So yeah, that's your first layer. After that, I go back over. So the green layer is what feeds the biology that's in the horse manure. If you can get a diversity of manures, that's good. I do have a diversity of the leaves and the greens. Mowing around here, you get all kinds of different kinds of grasses and clover and a really good amount of different stuff. And then the forest here is just very diverse. So these leaves, I'd say there's probably at least 20 different kind of trees and bushes, if not more, in this pile. And there's one more kind of compost that deals with wood chips that I'll be doing later. Once I start chipping, I'll be building some large, some really big compost areas with the wood chip matter. So yeah, I'm just going to finish this up. It's going to be a few more layers, at least. I'm going to bring this up to about right here, and then add the more green. By the time I'm finished, I expect this pile to be about this big, about about 5 foot by 5 foot. And 5 foot by 5 foot should make, you know, I'd say 2 yards or so, 2 to 3 at most yards of compost at the end. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. Worth it to make your own, and this will be better than just, I mean, I feel this is definitely better than wood chip compost. Wood chip compost is very useful and it's good, especially if you have a lot to clear. You want to use as many variety of different kind of trees and branches and stuff when you're chipping. But yeah, I'll come back and do a whole video just dedicated to wood chip compost later. Thank you very much for watching, and till next time.